The champagne flute felt cold against her palm. Marina Chin stood at the edge of the rooftop bar, surrounded by laughter that wasn't meant for her. The city stretched below, indifferent and glittering. She had come here because David said they needed to talk. He'd chosen a place filled with their mutual friends. That should have been the first warning. He stood 15 feet away, his hand resting on someone's lower back. The gesture was automatic. Familiar. The kind of touch that comes from repetition. Marina's breath caught. The woman turned and the world tilted. Sophia. Her best friend since college. The person who'd helped Marina pick out the dress she was wearing right now. The same person who had listened to her anxieties about this very relationship just 2 weeks ago, sitting on Marina's couch, drinking Marina's wine, promising everything would be okay. Sophia's eyes met hers across the crowd. There was no surprise there. No guilt. Just a soft, resigned acknowledgement. David finally looked over. He didn't approach. He simply raised his glass, a small, apologetic gesture, and turned back to the conversation. Back to Sophia. Back to whatever this was. Marina set down her champagne. The glass made no sound against the marble bar top. She walked toward the elevator and no one stopped her. No one called her name. The doors closed on the sound of celebration, and she realized with perfect, crystalline clarity that this hadn't been a conversation she was supposed to be part of. This had been an announcement. And she had been replaced. The truth arrived in pieces over the following week. First came the Instagram post. Sophia and David at a wine tasting in Napa, her head tilted against his shoulder. The caption read, "Sometimes the best things are worth the wait." Posted 4 days ago. The same weekend Marina thought David had gone to visit his brother. Then came the text messages from college friends carefully worded. "Are you okay?" and "I'm here if you need anything." Each one a confirmation that she'd been the last to know. Marina scrolled through her camera roll. There were dozens of photos of the three of them. Dinners, trips, birthdays. Sophia had been in Marina's life for nearly a decade. David for 3 years. The math was simple and sickening. How long had this been happening? She thought about the times David had canceled plans. The nights Sophia had been unavailable. The strange, shared glances she dismissed as inside jokes. The humiliation wasn't just private. It was architectural. Every mutual connection now had to choose sides, and Marina could already see which way the weight was tipping. David worked in venture capital. Sophia ran a successful PR firm. Together they formed a power couple with social currency. Marina was a freelance graphic designer. Talented but invisible in comparison. The engagement announcement appeared on a Tuesday morning. Not a phone call. Not even a direct message. Just a post. Sophia's hand extended toward the camera, a diamond catching the light. David's face partially visible behind her, smiling. The caption. He asked. I said yes. Life has a way of bringing the right people together. Hundreds of comments poured in within minutes. Congratulations. So happy for you both. You two are perfect together. Marina stared at the screen until her vision blurred. Then the invitation arrived. Cream cardstock, elegant calligraphy. Sophia Reyes and David Park request the pleasure of your company. The wedding was set for 6 weeks away at the Rosewood Estate, one of the most exclusive venues in the state. Marina turned the invitation over in her hands. They had invited her. Not out of kindness. Not out of guilt. They had invited her because not inviting her would be an admission of wrongdoing. This way they controlled the narrative. They were the gracious ones extending an olive branch. And if she didn't come, she'd be the bitter ex, unable to move on. If she did come, she'd be the defeated one, witnessing her replacement from the gallery. Marina set the invitation on her kitchen counter and stared at it for 3 days. On the 3rd day she decided. She would go. The truth arrived in pieces over the following week. First came the Instagram post. Sophia and David at a wine tasting in Napa, her head tilted against his shoulder. The caption read, "Sometimes the best things are worth the wait." Posted 4 days ago. The same weekend Marina thought David had gone to visit his brother. Then came the text messages from college friends carefully worded. Are you okay? And, I'm here if you need anything. Each one a confirmation that she'd been the last to know. Marina scrolled through her camera roll. There were dozens of photos of the three of them. Dinners, trips, birthdays. Sophia had been in Marina's life for nearly a decade. David for 3 years. The math was simple and sickening. How long had this been happening? She thought about the times David had canceled plans. The nights Sophia had been unavailable. The strange, shared glances she dismissed as inside jokes. The humiliation wasn't just private. It was architectural. Every mutual connection now had to choose sides, and Marina could already see which way the weight was tipping. David worked in venture capital. Sophia ran a successful PR firm. Together they formed a power couple with social currency. Marina was a freelance graphic designer. Talented but invisible in comparison. The engagement announcement appeared on a Tuesday morning. Not a phone call. Not even a direct message. Just a post. Sophia's hand extended toward the camera, a diamond catching the light. David's face partially visible behind her, smiling. The caption? He asked. I said yes. Life has a way of bringing the right people together. Hundreds of comments poured in within minutes. Congratulations. So happy for you both. You two are perfect together. Marina stared at the screen until her vision blurred. Then the invitation arrived. Cream cardstock, elegant calligraphy. Sophia Reyes and David Park request the pleasure of your company. The wedding was set for 6 weeks away at the Rosewood Estate, one of the most exclusive venues in the state. Marina turned the invitation over in her hands. They had invited her. Not out of kindness. Not out of guilt. They had invited her because not inviting her would be an admission of wrongdoing. This way they controlled the narrative. They were the gracious ones extending an olive branch. And if she didn't come, she'd be the bitter ex, unable to move on. If she did come, she'd be the defeated one, witnessing her replacement from the gallery. Marina set the invitation on her kitchen counter and stared at it for 3 days. On the 3rd day she decided. She would go. The cafe was nearly empty at 3 in the afternoon. Marina sat in the corner with her laptop, working on a logo redesign for a small client. The pay was minimal, but it kept her occupied. Kept her from thinking. The bell above the door chimed. A man entered, mid-30s, wearing a dark wool coat despite the mild weather. His hair was black, neatly styled. His face was composed, unreadable. He moved with the kind of economy that came from discipline. 2 other men followed at a respectful distance. The barista straightened immediately, her casual demeanor evaporating. She didn't ask for his order. She simply nodded and began preparing something without a word. The man took a seat 3 tables away from Marina. His companions stood near the door, not quite blocking it, but making their presence known. Marina glanced up, then back at her screen. She'd lived in the city long enough to recognize wealth when she saw it, and this man wore it like a second skin. She returned to her work. 10 minutes later, one of the men near the door answered his phone. The conversation was brief and tense, conducted in Korean. Marina didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone. Something had gone wrong. The man at the table didn't react. He sipped his espresso and gazed out the window, utterly still. Then his phone rang. He answered in Korean, his voice low and controlled. The conversation lasted less than 30 seconds. When he hung up, he stood and moved toward the door. One of his companions stepped forward, but the man waved him off and exited alone. Marina watched through the window as he walked toward a black sedan parked at the curb. A woman emerged from a shop across the street, moving quickly, her attention on her phone. She stepped into the crosswalk without looking. A delivery truck ran the red light. Marina's breath caught. The man moved. Not frantically. Not even quickly, really. But with precision. He caught the woman's arm and pulled her back onto the sidewalk half a second before the truck roared past. The driver didn't even slow. The woman stumbled, dropping her phone. It skittered across the pavement and landed near Marina's feet outside the cafe. Marina stood and walked over, picking it up. The screen was cracked but functional. The woman was shaking, thanking the man in breathless, broken sentences. He nodded once, released her arm, and turned back toward his car. Marina stepped forward and held out the phone. The woman took it with trembling hands, still speaking, though the man was already walking away. Marina looked at him. Something made her speak. She's saying thank you. The man stopped, turned. His eyes met hers, dark and assessing. I know. His English was perfect, accent barely present. Then you should acknowledge it. The words came out before Marina could stop them. She wasn't sure why she'd said it. Maybe because she was tired of people who took gratitude as their due. Maybe because she had nothing left to lose. The man studied her for a moment. Then he turned back to the woman and offered a small, respectful nod. The woman's relief was visible. The man looked at Marina again. This time, something shifted in his expression. Not quite a smile, but an acknowledgement. He returned to his car and left. Marina went back inside. The barista was staring at her. Do you know who that was? Marina shook her head. The barista leaned closer, her voice dropping. That was Kang Minho. He owns half the buildings in this district. Marina frowned. A real estate developer? The barista hesitated, then shrugged. Something like that. Marina returned to her laptop, but she couldn't focus. She thought about the way the man had moved, the way his companions had deferred to him, the way the barista's hands had shaken slightly when she'd made his drink. Real estate developers didn't inspire that kind of reaction. 3 days later, Marina returned to the same cafe. She told herself it was because the coffee was good and the Wi-Fi was reliable. She didn't examine the impulse too closely. Kang Minho was there. Same table. Same companions at the door. Same unreadable expression. This time, when Marina entered, his eyes tracked her briefly before returning to the window. She ordered her coffee and sat in her usual corner. An hour passed. When Minho stood to leave, he paused at her table. "You come here often?" It wasn't a question. Marina looked up. "It's quiet. So is your apartment, I imagine?" She stiffened. He noticed. "Observation, not threat," he said calmly. "You work alone. Freelance. You come here because solitude at home becomes isolation." Marina set down her cup carefully. "And you come here because?" "The same reason." He reached into his coat and pulled out a card. Plain white with a phone number embossed in black. Nothing else. "If you need something, call." Marina took the card, not entirely sure why. "I don't need anything. Everyone needs something eventually." He left. Marina stared at the card for a long time. Then she tucked it into her wallet and tried to forget about it. She couldn't. 2 weeks before the wedding, Marina called the number. She'd held the card a dozen times, typed the digits into her phone and deleted them twice. But the invitation sat on her counter, the date approaching, and she realized she'd run out of options. A woman answered in Korean, then switched to English. "Who is calling?" Marina gave her name. 1 moment. The hold music was classical. Chopin, she thought. 30 seconds later, a different voice came on the line. "Miss Chin." Kang Minho's voice was exactly as she remembered. "Come." Measured. "I didn't expect to hear from you. I need to ask you something. In person. Tomorrow 2 o'clock. I'll send you the address." He hung up before she could respond. The address arrived via text 10 minutes later. A restaurant in the financial district, upscale but not ostentatious. Marina arrived early, dressed carefully. Professional but not trying too hard. She was shown to a private dining room in the back. Minho was already there, seated at a table set for 2. No companions this time. He gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit." Marina sat. A server appeared, poured tea, and vanished without a word. Minho studied her. "You don't look like someone who needs money." Marina blinked. "I don't need money." "Then what do you need?" She set her hands flat on the table, steadying herself. "I need to attend an event. A wedding." "Whose?" "My ex-fiancé's. He's marrying my former best friend." Minho's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "Interest maybe. Or recognition." "And you need what, exactly?" "Security? Transportation?" "I need someone to attend with me." The silence stretched. "You want me to be your date to your ex's wedding." "I want you to be my presence at my ex's wedding," Marina corrected. "I don't need conversation or performance. I need someone who changes the room when they walk into it." Minho leaned back, considering. "You understand what you're asking?" "I think so." "No," he said quietly. "You don't. My attendance at an event sends a message. It implies association, protection, investment. People will make assumptions about you. About us. Good. Those assumptions will follow you. I'm aware." Minho picked up his tea, sipped it, set it down. "Why should I help you?" Marina met his eyes. "Because 3 days ago you told me everyone needs something eventually. This is what I need. And I'm asking. What are you offering in return?" She'd anticipated this question. "I'm a designer. I'll work for you whatever you need for 6 months. Branding, web design, print materials. No questions asked." Minho tilted his head slightly. "I have designers. Not like me. Confident. Desperate," Marina corrected. "There's a difference." For the first time, something that might have been amusement crossed his face. "Tell me about them. Your ex and your friend." Marina did. She kept it factual, unemotional. The timeline, the betrayal, the wedding invitation. When she finished, Minho was quiet for a long moment. "You want to hurt them?" "No. I want them to see me and realize they didn't break me. I want to walk in there as someone they can't dismiss or pity. I want them to spend the rest of their lives wondering what would have happened if they'd chosen differently." Minho nodded slowly. That's not revenge. That's erasure. Yes. He stood. I'll do it. Under one condition. Marina stood as well. Which is? You follow my lead completely. What you wear, when we arrive, when we leave. You don't improvise. You don't break character. And you don't interfere with anything I say or do. Marina hesitated, then nodded. Agreed. Minho extended his hand. She shook it. His grip was firm, brief. Someone will contact you in 3 days. They'll handle everything. He walked toward the door, then paused. Miss Chin. Yes. This will work. But it will cost you something. What? The version of yourself you were before. You can't walk into that room with me and walk out the same person. Consider whether that's a price you're willing to pay. He left. Marina stood alone in the private dining room, her hands still tingling from the handshake. She thought about his warning. Then she thought about the invitation, about Sophia's diamond, about David's hand on another woman's back. The price was acceptable. The call came exactly 3 days later. A woman's voice, professional and efficient. Her name was Hannah, and she worked for Mr. Kang. Marina was to meet her at a boutique in the city's luxury district the following morning. The boutique had no name on the door. Just an address. Inside it was sparse and elegant. 3 dresses hung on a single rack. A tailor stood waiting with a measuring tape. Hannah was younger than Marina expected, mid-20s, sharply dressed. She greeted Marina with a nod and gestured to the dresses. Mr. Kang selected these based on the venue and the message you want to send. Try them on. Marina approached the rack. The dresses were beautiful, understated but clearly expensive. The kind of garments that whispered rather than shouted. She tried on all 3. The first was navy, high-necked, structured. It made her look untouchable. The second was charcoal, off-shoulder, elegant. It made her look like she'd moved on. The third was deep emerald, long-sleeved, form-fitting without being obvious. It made her look dangerous. Hannah circled her slowly in the 3rd dress. This one. Marina looked at herself in the mirror. She barely recognized the person staring back. It's too much. No, Hannah said. It's exactly enough. You're not trying to compete with the bride. You're trying to eclipse everyone else. The tailor took measurements, marking adjustments with pins. The dress would be ready in 5 days. Hannah handed Marina a card for a salon. Hair and makeup the day of. Appointment is already scheduled. They know what to do. Marina took the card. How much is all of this costing? Mr. Kang is handling it. I can't. You agreed to his terms? Hannah interrupted. This is part of them. You're attending an event as his guest. You'll be seen as a reflection of him. He doesn't allow poor reflections. Marina nodded slowly. Hannah's expression softened slightly. He doesn't do this often. Help people, I mean. Whatever reason he has for helping you, take it and don't question it. The days leading up to the wedding were strange. Marina found herself thinking differently. Moving differently. She stopped apologizing in emails. Stopped second-guessing her designs. Stopped shrinking. When a potential client tried to lowball her on a project, she declined without explanation. When a mutual friend texted asking if she was really going to the wedding, Marina replied with a single word. Yes. The morning of the wedding, Marina woke at dawn. She went for a run, came back, showered. Drank her coffee slowly. Read the news. Did everything she could to keep her hands from shaking. The salon appointment was at 2. The wedding was at 6. The stylist didn't ask questions. She simply worked, transforming Marina's appearance with precision. The makeup was subtle but striking. The hair was sleek, elegant, pulled back to showcase her face rather than hide it. When Marina looked in the mirror, she saw someone she'd forgotten existed. The woman she'd been before David. Before Sophia. Before she'd learned to make herself smaller to fit into someone else's life. She returned to her apartment and put on the emerald dress. It fit perfectly. At 5:15 her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, downstairs. Marina grabbed her clutch, took one last look in the mirror and walked out. The black sedan was parked at the curb, engine running. The driver opened the back door. Kang Minho sat inside, wearing a tailored black suit. He looked up as she slid in beside him. For a moment he said nothing. Then, "You're ready." It wasn't a question, but Marina answered anyway. Yes. The driver closed the door and they pulled away from the curb. The drive to the Rosewood estate took 40 minutes. Marina watched the city give way to suburbs, then to manicured countryside. Her heartbeat was steady, her breathing controlled. Minho had opened a tablet and was reading something in Korean. He worked in silence, completely at ease. Marina studied him peripherally. There was something almost meditative about his composure. No wasted movement. No visible anxiety. She wanted that. Needed it even. How do you do it? She asked quietly. Minho looked up. Do what? Stay calm. No matter what. He considered the question. I learned a long time ago that other people's expectations are not my responsibility. I control what I can control. Everything else is weather. Marina turned that over in her mind. And if the weather becomes a storm? Then you don't fight the storm. You become something it can't move. The estate came into view through the trees. White columns, sprawling gardens, fairy lights already glowing in the dusk. Cars lined the circular drive. Guests in evening wear moved toward the entrance in clusters. Marina's hands tightened on her clutch. Minho noticed. We're not going in through the front. Marina looked at him. What? Entrances matter. We'll arrive after the ceremony begins during the cocktail hour. We'll be noticed but not in a way that disrupts the primary event. You'll get your moment without giving them ammunition to call you petty. Marina exhaled slowly. You've done this before. Power is theater, Minho said simply. And theater requires timing. The car drove past the main entrance and followed a side road to a secondary gate. The driver spoke briefly into a phone and the gate opened. They parked near a garden entrance, discreet but accessible. Minho stepped out first. He buttoned his jacket, adjusted his cuffs and extended a hand to Marina. She took it and emerged from the car. The air was cool. She could hear music drifting from the main building, laughter, the clink of glasses. Minho offered his arm. Marina took it. They walked toward the light. The cocktail hour was in full swing when they entered through the garden terrace. Marina felt the shift immediately. It started with the guests nearest the door. A woman mid-sentence stopped talking. Her companion turned to see what had caught her attention. Two men in suits glanced over, their expressions changing from casual curiosity to something sharper. Recognition. Minho guided Marina forward with steady, unhurried steps. He didn't pause, didn't acknowledge the stares. He simply moved through the space as though he belonged there, and by extension so did she. Marina kept her eyes forward, her spine straight. She'd worn heels countless times, but tonight they felt different. Each step was deliberate, precise. They reached the bar. Minho ordered whiskey neat. Marina asked for champagne. The bartender's hand trembled slightly as he poured Minho's drink. Mr. Kang, the bartender said quietly. I didn't know you were on the guest list. I'm not. The bartender handed over both drinks without another word. Minho turned, surveying the room with the calm assessment of someone taking inventory. Marina followed his gaze. The venue was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked manicured gardens. Crystal chandeliers hung from exposed wooden beams. Everywhere, beautiful people in expensive clothing mingled and laughed. And slowly, steadily they were all turning to look. Marina spotted familiar faces. David's business partner. Sophia's younger sister. Friends she hadn't spoken to in weeks. Then she saw him. David stood near the far windows, surrounded by a small group of men in suits. He was mid-laugh, relaxed, confident. The groom in his element. He glanced toward the bar. His laughter died. Marina watched his face cycle through confusion, disbelief, then something close to panic. He excused himself from the group and started moving through the crowd. Sophia appeared from the other side of the room, radiant in her wedding gown. She'd been speaking with an older couple, but her attention shifted as she noticed the disturbance rippling through her guests. Her eyes found Marina. Then they found Minho. Sophia's smile faltered. David reached them first, his expression carefully controlled but his eyes sharp. Marina. His voice was measured. I'm surprised to see you. You invited me. I did. I just didn't think you'd come. He looked at Minho and something in his posture changed. The easy confidence evaporated, replaced by the careful neutrality of someone suddenly unsure of the social landscape. I'm David Park. The groom. Minho inclined his head slightly. Kang Minho. David waited for more. When nothing came, he extended his hand. Minho shook it briefly. Are you a friend of Marina's? David asked. Yes. The single word hung in the air. Marina could see David trying to place the name, trying to figure out why the room had gone quiet. Sophia joined them, her dress rustling softly. Up close, Marina could see the expertness of her makeup, the careful styling, the diamond necklace that matched her ring. Marina. Sophia's voice was warm, but her eyes were cautious. I'm so glad you came. It means a lot. Congratulations, Sophia. Thank you. Sophia turned her attention to Minho, her professional instincts kicking in. I don't believe we've met. I'm Sophia Reyes. Kang Minho. Marina watched as Sophia's expression shifted. She was good at hiding reactions. Years in PR had taught her that, but something in her eyes sharpened. She recognized the name. Mr. Kang, Sophia said carefully. What a pleasant surprise. I didn't realize you knew Marina. I do now. Sophia glanced at David, then back at Minho. She was recalculating. Marina could see it. Trying to understand the connection, the implications. Well, Sophia said, her smile returning but brighter, more brittle. Please enjoy the evening. There's wonderful food and the band is about to start. We will, Minho said. Sophia and David moved away but not far. They stopped to greet another group of guests, but David's attention kept drifting back. Marina took a sip of champagne, her hand steady. He's afraid, she said quietly. Minho didn't look at her. Yes. He doesn't even know why yet. He will. They moved away from the bar, circulating slowly. Minho greeted no one, but people greeted him. Small nods. Respectful acknowledgments. A venture capitalist Marina recognized from industry events approached, shook Minho's hand, and spoke in low tones for 30 seconds before departing. Marina said nothing. She simply stayed at Minho's side, her presence an unspoken statement. She saw the way people looked at her now. Not with pity. Not with curiosity. With wariness. A waiter passed with a tray of hors d'oeuvres. Minho selected one, ate it without comment. Marina realized she was hungry. They found seats at one of the high-top tables near the window. From here, Marina had a clear view of the room. She could see David speaking urgently with his best man. Could see Sophia on her phone, typing rapidly. They're researching you, Marina said. Yes. What will they find? Enough to understand they made a mistake. By inviting me? By underestimating you. The band began playing. Couples moved to the dance floor. The evening was proceeding as planned, but there was a current of tension running beneath it now. Marina saw David's business partner approach him, whisper something. David's face went pale. Sophia intercepted them, her smile fixed. She said something that made David nod, but he looked shaken. Minho checked his watch. We've been here 17 minutes. Is that long enough? For the first impression. Now we wait for the second. Which is? The moment they realize they can't ask us to leave. Marina felt something unfurl in her chest. Not quite satisfaction. Something colder. Sharper. Control. A woman approached their table. Mid-40s, elegant, dripping with jewelry. Marina recognized her as one of Sophia's clients, a tech CEO. Mr. Kang, the woman said. Julia Brennan. I've been hoping for an opportunity to speak with you. Minho stood, shook her hand. Ms. Brennan. I'm working on a new venture. Biotechnology. I'd love to schedule a meeting to discuss potential investment opportunities. Send the details to my office. I will. Julia glanced at Marina, curious. And you are? Marina extended her hand. Marina Chin. I'm a designer. Marina did the branding for Lumen Systems, Minho added. You might have seen their recent campaign. The reception hall was a marvel of design. Long tables draped in ivory linens. Centerpieces of white roses and eucalyptus. Gold-rimmed china and crystal stemware that caught the light from a dozen chandeliers. At the head table, Sophia and David sat surrounded by their wedding party, presiding over the celebration. Marina and Minho were seated at a table near the back, which suited them perfectly. From this vantage point, Marina could observe everything without being in the direct line of sight. Their tablemates were strangers. A couple from David's firm. An aunt of Sophia's. A college friend Marina vaguely remembered. The college friend, Rebecca, leaned across the table. Marina, I almost didn't recognize you. You look incredible. Thank you. And this must be your date. Rebecca smiled at Minho with the bright curiosity of someone who smelled gossip. How did you two meet? Before Marina could answer, Minho spoke. A cafe. She corrected my manners. Rebecca laughed, uncertain if he was joking. Well, Marina always did have strong opinions about etiquette. Dinner was served in courses. Marina ate mechanically, tasting nothing. She was too aware of the glances from other tables, the whispered conversations that stopped when she looked over. David's business partner, Richard Chin, no relation, approached during the second course. He shook Minho's hand with visible nervousness. Mr. Kang, I didn't expect to see you here. Life is full of surprises. Indeed. Richard's gaze flickered to Marina, then back to Minho. Are you acquainted with the groom? No. The bride? No. Richard waited for elaboration. None came. Well, please let me know if there's anything you need this evening. I will. Richard retreated, but Marina noticed him pull out his phone immediately and step toward the hallway. She leaned toward Minho. What did he just do? Called his office. Told them to review any business arrangements his firm has with the groom. How do you know that? Because it's what I would do. The toasts began after the main course. The best man stood, glass raised, and delivered a story about David's college days. Harmless. Amusing. The kind of speech designed to make the groom seem lovable and relatable. Then Sophia's maid of honor stood. Her name was Veronica, and she'd known Sophia since high school. I've watched Sophia navigate so many relationships over the years, Veronica began, her voice warm. And I always knew she'd end up with someone special. Someone who truly understood her. Marina's jaw tightened. David is that person, Veronica continued. The way they found each other is a testament to the idea that when something is meant to be, the universe finds a way. The guests applauded. Sophia dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. Marina reached for her water glass. Minho's hand covered hers briefly. A gentle pressure. A reminder. She released the glass and settled her hands in her lap. David stood next, microphone in hand. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight, he began. Sophia and I know that our path to this moment wasn't conventional. But the best things rarely are. He looked directly at Marina. We're grateful for the support of everyone who stood by us, and we hope that those who may have had doubts can see now that what we have is real. It was a masterful play. Acknowledging the awkwardness while claiming the moral high ground. Casting himself and Sophia as brave souls who'd followed their hearts despite opposition. Marina felt the eyes of the room shift to her, waiting for a reaction. She gave them nothing. Her expression remained serene, disinterested. It was Minho who moved. He stood, picked up his champagne glass and tapped it lightly with a fork. The room went silent. Every head turned. Minho didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Congratulations on your wedding. He paused, letting the words settle. May you receive exactly what you deserve. He sat down. The silence stretched for 3 full seconds. Then, hesitantly, guests began to applaud. But the energy had changed. The toast had sounded sincere on the surface, but anyone with half a brain could hear the razor underneath. May you receive exactly what you deserve. Not what you want. Not happiness. Not prosperity. What you deserve. David's smile had frozen. Sophia's hand tightened around her fork. The DJ announced the cake cutting, a transparent attempt to move the evening forward. David and Sophia posed with the elaborate 4-tier cake, smiling for the photographer. They fed each other bites with exaggerated sweetness, and the guests applauded again. But the room felt different now. Fractured. Marina noticed small things. David's business partner speaking urgently into his phone outside the doors. One of Sophia's clients leaving early. A board member from David's firm who'd been jovial earlier now sitting in silence. The dancing resumed, but fewer people participated. Marina checked her watch. They'd been there for 90 minutes. We're leaving, Minho said quietly. Now? Yes. The final impression is as important as the first. We stay too long, it looks like we're seeking attention. We leave now, it looks like we have more important places to be. They stood. Rebecca looked up, disappointed. You're leaving already? Yes, Marina said. Congratulations to the happy couple. They moved toward the exit. Marina didn't look back, but she felt David's eyes following her. They were almost to the door when Sophia intercepted them. Marina, wait. Marina turned. Sophia's smile was strained. I'm glad you came. I really am. I hope we can all move forward from here. Marina studied her former friend. The woman who had sat in her apartment, drunk her wine, and pretended to care while planning her betrayal. We already have moved forward, Sophia. Just not in the same direction. Sophia's smile flickered. I hope you're not upset about. I'm not upset, Marina interrupted. I'm grateful. You showed me exactly who you are. That's a gift. She turned to leave. Sophia's voice followed her, sharper now. Who is he, Marina? Really? Marina looked back over her shoulder. Someone who values loyalty. You wouldn't understand. Minho opened the door and they stepped out into the cool night air. The car was waiting. As they drove away, Marina watched the lights of the Rosewood estate disappear behind them. Did I do well? She asked. Yes. Will there be fallout? Immediately. Marina leaned her head back against the seat. Good. The fallout began before Marina woke the next morning. Her phone buzzed at 7 a.m. A text from Rebecca. "Call me. People are talking." Then another, from a college acquaintance she hadn't heard from in years. "Are you seriously dating Kang Minho?" Marina ignored them and made coffee. At 8:30 Hannah called. "Mr. Kang wanted me to inform you that several things will happen today. First, you'll receive a contract from Lumen Systems regarding their rebranding project. Sign it. Second, 3 people will reach out trying to get information about your relationship with Mr. Kang. Tell them nothing. Third, your ex-fiancé will attempt to contact you. Don't respond." How does he know all this? Because it's already happening. David Park called Mr. Kang's office at 6:45 this morning. He was told Mr. Kang was unavailable. Marina set down her coffee cup. What did David want? To apologize for any misunderstanding and to request a meeting. Why? Because sometime between midnight and 6 a.m., 3 things happened to him. His firm's largest investor requested a review of all current partnerships. His company's line of credit was flagged for audit. And a commercial lease his firm was negotiating fell through. Marina felt something cold settle in her stomach. Minho did that? Mr. Kang did nothing. But when people learned he'd attended the wedding as your guest, they drew their own conclusions about where his interests lie. And people don't interfere with Mr. Kang's interests. That's insane. That's power, Hannah corrected. Now, the Lumen contract will arrive in your email within the hour. Read it carefully. It's legitimate. You'll do good work for them and they'll pay you well. This is your opportunity. The call ended. Marina sat in her apartment, processing. She pulled up David's social media. The wedding photos were already posted, hundreds of them. Beautiful images of the ceremony, the reception, the happy couple. But the comments were strange. Congratulations, but who was that man at table 12? Gorgeous wedding. Quick question, are you working with Kang Minho on something? Beautiful ceremony. Wishing you both exactly what you deserve. That last one made Marina's lips twitch. Her phone rang again. This time an unknown number. She answered. "Miss Chin, this is Graham Associates. We represent David Park. Mr. Park would like to arrange a conversation with you at your earliest convenience regarding." Marina hung up. The contract from Lumen Systems arrived at 9:15. She read every word. It was generous, professional, and exactly as Hannah had described. Marina signed it and sent it back. Her phone buzzed constantly throughout the morning. Friends she hadn't heard from in months suddenly wanted to get coffee. Former colleagues had projects they thought she'd be perfect for. Invitations to events. Requests for introductions. Marina deleted most of them. At noon her doorbell rang. She checked the security camera. Sophia stood in the hallway, looking immaculate despite the early hour after a wedding. Marina considered not answering. Then she opened the door. "Sophia. Can I come in?" Marina stepped aside. Sophia entered, her eyes scanning the apartment as though searching for evidence of something. She turned to face Marina. "We need to talk." "Do we?" "Marina, what you did last night was cruel." Marina crossed her arms. "I attended your wedding. That's what you wanted. You know that's not what I mean. Bringing him. Making a spectacle. I brought a guest to an event where I was invited. That's normal." "Kang Minho is not normal," Sophia said, her voice rising. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Apparently more than I realized. David's business is falling apart. Investors are pulling back. Partners are asking questions. All because people think he somehow offended a man with connections to..." She stopped herself. Marina tilted her head. "Connections to what, Sophia?" Sophia pressed her lips together. "You need to fix this." "How?" "Call him. Tell him it was a misunderstanding. Tell him David and I meant no disrespect." Marina moved to the door and opened it. "No. Marina. You stole 3 years of my life. You pretended to be my friend while sleeping with my fiancé. You paraded your relationship in front of everyone I know and invited me to watch you marry him. And now you want me to protect you from consequences? This isn't about protecting us. It's about you not becoming someone you're not. You're not vindictive. You're not. I'm not what? Not strong enough to fight back? Not important enough to have powerful friends? Not worth defending?" Sophia flinched. "That's not what I meant." "Yes, it is. You and David looked at me and saw someone disposable. Someone who would quietly disappear while you built your perfect life. You were wrong. So what, you're going to destroy us?" "I'm not doing anything," Marina said calmly. "I'm simply living my life. If your life happens to fall apart because you made enemies of the wrong people, That's not my problem. Sophia's eyes filled with tears, but Marina had seen her cry on command too many times to be moved. I thought we were friends. So did I. Sophia left without another word. Marina closed the door and leaned against it, her heart pounding. Her phone buzzed. A text from Minho, "Are you all right?" She stared at the message for a long moment, then typed, "Yes. Thank you." His response was immediate, "Meet me tomorrow? Same restaurant. 2 o'clock. Over the following week, the consequences rippled outward. David's firm lost 2 major clients. The investment audit found nothing criminal, but the scrutiny alone was damaging. Partnerships that had seemed solid evaporated. His name, once associated with rising success, now carried questions. Sophia's PR firm fared better, but several of her clients quietly ended their contracts. In the delicate world of reputation management, being associated with chaos was fatal. Marina watched from a distance, detached. She started the Lumen Systems project. The work was challenging and rewarding. They treated her like a professional, not a favor. Other opportunities followed. A referral from Lumen led to a tech startup. The startup led to a venture capital firm. Each project was legitimate, each client serious. Marina realized slowly that her career was transforming. She moved to a new apartment, smaller but in a better neighborhood. Signed a year lease without David's name on it. Decorated it the way she wanted. Lived alone without loneliness. On Thursday afternoon, she received a text from David's mother. A woman she'd always liked. "I'm sorry for what my son did to you. You deserved better. I hope you're well." Marina replied, "Thank you. I am." That evening, she found herself standing in front of her closet, looking at the emerald dress. She'd had it cleaned and hung it carefully in the back. She didn't know if she'd ever wear it again. But she kept it. A reminder that she'd walked into the fire and emerged unburned. 3 months passed. Marina's new life took shape in ways she hadn't anticipated. The work was steady, well-paid, and respected. She'd hired an assistant to handle the administrative overflow. Her portfolio had transformed from competent to sought after. People who wouldn't have returned her calls 6 months ago now asked for meetings. She attended gallery openings and industry events. Not as someone's girlfriend or someone's friend, but as herself. People remembered her name. The apartment had become home. She'd bought real furniture, not the temporary pieces she'd made do with for years. Hung art. Planted herbs in the kitchen window. Small acts of permanence. She rarely thought about David anymore. When she did, it was with the distant curiosity one might have about a former coworker. Someone who'd existed in her life but no longer held any emotional weight. Sophia had sent one more message 2 months after the wedding. A long, rambling apology that somehow still managed to center herself. Marina had read it once and archived it without responding. The silence was its own answer. Marina had not spoken to Kang Minho since the meeting the day after the wedding. That conversation had been brief. He'd asked if she was satisfied with the outcome. She'd said yes. He'd reminded her that her 6 months of design work was still owed. She'd agreed. "You could have destroyed them completely," Marina had said. "Yes. Why didn't you?" Minho had considered the question carefully. "Because that would have made it about me. This was about you. You needed to see that you could stand in the same room as your fear and not break. You did that. The rest is just consequences of their own choices." He'd stood to leave, then paused. "You're different now. Is that good?" "That's up to you." She hadn't seen him since. Until today. Marina arrived at the cafe where they'd first met, not because she'd been summoned, but because she'd chosen to return. It was late afternoon, the same quiet hour as before. Minho was there, in the same seat, reading the same type of document. Marina ordered coffee and approached his table. "May I sit?" He looked up, unsurprised. "Please." She sat across from him, setting down her cup. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "I wanted to thank you," Marina said finally. "You already did. I wanted to do it when I understood what I was thanking you for." Minho closed the folder he'd been reading. "And what is that?" "You didn't save me. You didn't fix my life or solve my problems. You just gave me a mirror that showed me who I could be if I stopped making myself small. That's a different kind of gift." Minho nodded slowly. "You did the work yourself. I just provided the theater." "It was good theater." "Yes." Marina smiled. "I've been thinking about what you said. About how attending that wedding would cost me the version of myself I was before. Are you angry about that?" "No," Marina said. "I'm grateful. That version of me couldn't have built what I'm building now. She was too afraid of taking up space." And now I'm learning that space is something you claim, not something you're given. Minho picked up his espresso, finished it. I heard David Park's firm is relocating. Smaller office, fewer employees. I heard that too. Sophia Reyes closed her PR company. She's working for someone else now. Marina absorbed this without satisfaction or regret. And their marriage? Still standing. For now. Whether it survives the pressure of diminished circumstances remains to be seen. Marina traced the rim of her coffee cup. I don't hate them anymore. I don't think about them enough to hate them. That's the best revenge, Minho said. Indifference. They sat in comfortable silence. Finally, Marina spoke. Your 6 months of design work. Do you actually need it, or was that just part of the arrangement? I need it. My businesses require rebranding for a new venture. I was planning to contact you next week. Then I'll do it. Not because I owe you, but because I want to do good work for someone who respects it. Minho extended his hand across the table. Marina shook it. One condition, she said. Which is? No more favors. If we're working together, we're working as equals. Professional courtesy, not debts. Something that might have been respect crossed Minho's face. Agreed. He stood, preparing to leave. Mr. Kang, Marina said. He paused. Why did you help me? Really? Minho considered the question for a long moment. Because I saw someone who'd been taught to apologize for existing. And I've built my entire life on the principle that people who try to make you small do so because they fear what you'd become if you stood at full height. I don't tolerate bullies. Even well-dressed ones. He left. Marina sat alone in the cafe, watching the city move past the windows. She thought about the woman she'd been 6 months ago. Broken. Humiliated. Desperate. She thought about the woman sitting here now. Oh. Professional. Free. The transformation hadn't been loud or dramatic. It had been a series of small choices, each one slightly braver than the last. Choosing to attend the wedding. Choosing to ask for help. Choosing to walk in with her head high. Choosing to leave on her own terms. Choosing to build something new instead of mourning what was lost. Her phone buzzed. An email from a gallery owner she'd met at a networking event. They were looking for design work for an upcoming exhibition. Premium budget, creative freedom. Marina replied with her availability. She finished her coffee, left a generous tip, and walked out into the afternoon sun. The city stretched before her, full of possibility. She'd walked into fire and emerged unburned. She'd stood beside power and learned to claim her own. She'd faced her worst humiliation and transformed it into her greatest elevation. Marina Chin walked forward, alone but never lonely, broken once but rebuilt stronger, exactly where she deserved to be.